So I would welcome for any of you to either have a comment or a question. We can keep it open-ended. If there is something I don't know, I'll be the first to tell you. I don't.
I'll kick it off with an icebreaker. So
Sure.
it's easier. No, it's okay.
I mean, I can always repeat the question if everyone's benefit.
The question is about around Swami's physical form after his moving out from the physical form. Now we are in a stage we don't see his form and the kind of miracles that he used to do, cancel the cancer or the vibhuti coming out of his hand. Those things, it had become part and parcel of our lives. We have seen him so often in videos, in direct darshans. But post that, there is, let's say, the vacuum of the physical self, of physical form. How have you and how do you expect, how do you think the devotees should transition and move forward going without his physical form? How do you see that for us and moving forward?
You know, the vacuum that Swami has left us with can never be filled. Let's be very honest about it. It cannot, especially in our generation where we have seen him. Many of us have been to Puttaparthi, has his darshan, and we know, we have seen the physical form. We don't need a grandfather to tell us. When I was young, I used to see Shirdi Baba, and we should just imagine. We didn't have to imagine that because we actually saw him. That can never be replaced. There will always be a sense of emptiness there. I think we have to live with it and we have to die with it. I don't think any other generation will ever experience what we experienced, the joy and the sorrow of having him and losing him. So that's because it's a very unique thing. We cannot learn it from someone else because someone else is not there to say, I know how you feel, right? But then it gives us, so while that is there, it also gives us an opportunity to experience him at a whole different level. Until Swami passed away, at some point, whenever we look online, we used to think, where is Swami? Is he in Whitefield or is he in Vrindavan? Has he got to Bombay? What is he up to? What is going on? What is Sai Baba doing next? We used to always have that in mind. Of course, we used to listen to discourses and all that, but there was always, where is he? So at some level, we had fixed his location at some point. And so for us, his being omnipresent was a philosophy that we were adhering to. It wasn't, of course we had miracles taking place in devotees' houses and things like that. We would hear of that. But when we think of Swami, it was always be Vrindavan, Whitefield or Puttaparthi. Now, we don't get to do that. And if you notice in the last 10 years, you don't go online to check where Sai Baba is. You know where he is, right? That shift has taken place and is taking place actually rather rapidly in all of us at some level, and it's only His grace that's making it happen. So there is an amazing opportunity that is available to us to experience them exponentially with us, in us, around us, in our own home. Now there is no more VVIPs and VIPs. You could go there and sit really close to just a marble slab, we would say, but Swami is inside, his body is way inside. Nobody can really even access that, right? Nobody can say, I touched his feet now anymore. So VIP sitting a little closer to that Samadhi is no closer than somebody sitting 50 feet away, because he can also walk right up to the Samadhi and put his head on that marble slab that is there, right? And so the experience is pretty much same now, right? So that is at the physical level, but it gives us that amazing opportunity to, that I am not this or that. Now I'm on the same level as everyone else. Like we are all now and at one level, and all of us have this divine opportunity to experience the omnipresence, the omniscience, and the omnipotence of this magnificent power. And more importantly, along with that, we get a chance to spiritually enlighten ourselves. Because to me, experiencing Swami is through his teachings, through understanding the values, through understanding the way he lived his life, his message. And when I watch that and I learn that and I incorporate some of that into my life, then I get closer, I feel close to him. And he gets closer to me. It's an amazing bond. And then the guidance comes. It comes in so many inexplicable ways. It is not necessarily do I go for bhajans, how many bhajans do I do, or do I meditate on his form, or this or that. It is just that when you think, okay, what would Swami do in such a situation? How do I respond to this email? What would Swami think I should, Swami, how do I respond? So you're talking to him internally every time, right? So a part of Swami is becoming alive in our consciousness at some level. And that begins to tell on our lives. That begins to enrich a spirit at a very deeper level. It may not be right away evident, but I think we all can agree that all of us go home talking to Swami now even more freely, not wondering if I go to Puttaparthi, will I get a chance to see him? We know that he is seeing us at every level. So in one way, it's a great vacuum. We're never going to have a chance to see that form or touch his feet. That's always going to be there. It's something we have to live with. But on the other side, there is the Vishwarupa, if you will, the cosmic form of Sai. From where he came, we got a chance to explore that. We got a chance to understand that. We've got a chance to experience that form. So if you see Krishna's life, after Krishna passed away, the Pandavas didn't know what to do. They just walked into Himalayas. But we didn't do that, right? So that didn't stop Krishna from being omnipresent, right? His omnipresence and his teachings and everything flourished from that after he passed away. He said there was nothing to limit now Krishna to being a diplomat or just somebody who said, okay, don't fight, you fight, I'm on your side, this side. None of that. Everybody forgot about it, correct? Then his teachings came to light. Today, how do you and I remember Krishna? From Bhagavad Gita and Krishna, that's it. The essence of Krishna is Bhagavad Gita, right? We take that home. And that can never die. So that is something so powerful. So Krishna is still very much alive. And look at the Maha Mantras and all of that the rishis found. Finally, oh my God, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna is the greatest mantra. And so on, like this, so many thousands of years that is developed from that one avatar. Imagine so much has to be exploited from this avatar who has given us so much more than what Krishna did. I mean, here we have his teachings are recorded right now, his form is recorded for posterity. Okay? Maybe somebody recorded Krishna and maybe, we did. Of course, we know he had a peacock feather and it's all part of history. It's a itihasa, it's not Purana, right? So it is recorded and it's passed on to us, but today you and I cannot go to Amazon and discover how Krishna looked, but we can Google and know how Swami looked. So that's a great blessing. So imagine how much more of his teachings will come to light, how much more of his life will come to light, how much more of that mantra that is hidden in Om Sai Ram, that energy has to develop itself. It will develop as more and more devotees chant. I believe that there is this Akasha, right? From how does creation come? It's from Akasha. The sound vibrations, the energy of the wind gives energy to that, and then fire comes and water and earth. That's how it comes. If I want to drink water, first the thought comes as a vibration, a thought. So in my Akasha, water comes. And then my breathing supports that. And then it comes down to visualization. What does water look like? Where do I look for water? And then I actually move my body, which is fluidity. I grab this water, and finally earth, manifestation. The water is manifested in my hand. So every moment creation is happening in my body. Right? So at some level, there's vibrations and thoughts. So imagine in that collective consciousness, in our Akasha, all these mantras are stored by the rishis and sages and for thousands of years. That's why they say chant this mantra, it's powerful. What does it mean? You have the ability to tap into that same powerful resource where Hare Rama, Hare Krishna is stored in this Akasha, which is being chanted by millions of people over thousands of years, correct? So where does that sound go? It gets stored in the unconscious, and then you tap into that. So as we chant Om Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram, that's also going to gather its own momentum, and it will influence so many more lives. So Avatar's life, we cannot judge if it's successful, not successful, all of that. This is nothing. He's just sown the seed. And like Krishna, after Krishna lived, Dwapara is supposed to have gone into the sea. Yadavas fought with each other, and everybody thought it's over. Must have thought it's over. But it wasn't. So it is the same thing with every incarnation, every avatar. We just need to consider our good fortune. At that time, 200 years from now, 500 years from now, nobody is going to distinguish between, you got 2 interviews, oh my God, he got 50 interviews. No, you got to see him. You got to listen to him. That will become the greatest value, right? And so we all share that. So as more and more time goes, the value, the real energy of Sai, all of that is going to manifest. But we have that opportunity today to not wait for something to happen, not wait for somebody to tell you, but we all have that direct connection now to Swami, and to reach out and say, okay, you know what, you and I now, there's no physicality, there's nothing to stop me. You are not in Puttaparthi, I'm not. I could be anywhere, but you could also come here right to my home, and we can create that manifestation in our lives. Absolutely. And I think when you begin to taste that, then there is no going back. That joy of direct connection. Where we miss it is for example, we have a satsang like this. If we go home satisfied with the satsang, then we are missing a boat. It should trigger something. The yearning, see, bhakti is a funny thing in the sense there is pain in bhakti, right? And after a while, you don't want to experience that pain. Somewhere, because it's a real yearning. Our soul is yearning for our higher self. I mean, ultimately, even we say Krishna, Sai, Swam, Shiva, we yearn that. Yearning is actually me yearning for the real darshan, the real self, to give that vision. And that yearning, sometimes we don't know how to yearn, what to do. That yearning comes, So like a child who's just hungry, doesn't know how to ask for it. He just starts bawling, and the mother goes running, right? So if that bhakti begins to gather momentum, then in his own way, Swami reveals himself. I mean, it's so magical. I don't know how else to say that, but it is amazing, and I'm sure many of you would have experienced it in small little acts in our lives. We didn't know how to do somewhere you got a message from somebody, or maybe an email, maybe an advertisement on TV spoke to you. Somehow he will talk to you, right? But those are small little playthings. When he really begins to touch you and you feel that connection, when you start getting guided, it's amazing. Then oh gosh, I don't have to worry about anything because I know he's taking care of my life. That, if we are able to establish, and that's what I'm saying, we have that opportunity to establish that connection, then we live a life of contentment. That sense of security and a sense of peace comes, which is amazing. Like nothing will shake you from that peace. It's not a matter of faith, and we say faith is like a battery, I need to recharge my faith. Faith is not like a battery. Faith comes, then there is no going back on that at all. But that faith will come with experience. So we have that opportunity. So more we conduct satsang, the more we talk about it, the more we share our experiences, the more we open our minds to learning more about spirituality in general, then he comes automatically. Saram, please come. There is, it's not like we have to do only Sai name for getting Sai. If I do Shiva, can Swami come? Will Swami be upset if I do Lalita Sahasranam? I'm not chanting Om Sai Ram. We have created all those. For him, there is absolutely no difference. Right? I mean, if Baba would sing bhajans, what bhajans he would sing? Think of all those old bhajans he would sing. Govinda Hare Gopal. Like that bhajans he would sing, right? So for him, there is no difference between names and forms. You know, when I was young, Swami would, at the end of Shivratri, what we'll do? Only Shiva bhajans, right? I mean, so we'll all bring a list of Shiva bhajans, empty it, explore more. Somebody sings and one which I've not heard, everybody will be awake. Otherwise, it'll be the same old bhajans. Just bolo bolo sab mein bolo will get hit so many times. It'll be like every third person will want to sing that. So, and then Swami comes and gives a discourse. At the end of Shivratri discourse, he will sing Prema Mudita Manase Kaho Ram. And I used to think, Swami, there must be some Shiva bhajan you can sing. It took me years to understand how, for him, really, Rama is not different from Shiva or Krishna or Gopala. There is no difference. That Shivaratri is, Shiva is auspiciousness. You're spending the whole night in Mangalakara. It's like in auspiciousness, in thinking of the divine. So how does it matter what you sing? So he comes from that level that even in those discourses, subtly he would make everybody sing Ram, Ram, Ram. So if you notice some of his Shivratri discourses, it'll always end with some of these bhajans, right? Even though he used to sing Ganga Jatadara Gauri, Ganga Jatadara Gauri, Swami used to sing all that. So you could have sung Shiva bhajans. He could have, while walking down, he would have said, okay, what should I sing? That's how we go for bhajans. What should I sing today? Do I fit into the crowd? How, you know? But for him, spontaneous. It's an amazing thing. So at his level, there is no difference. So when we open our mind to any spiritual discussion, any satsang, you know, he will come because he is the Sadguru. He has opened that door. He will come. That form only will come to us, whether we want it or not. It will come. I remember very beautifully and powerfully, Swami was explaining something. I was sitting right under him. He said, even if you want to leave me, once you come into my fold, I will not leave you. You know, he caught my hair. I always say, now it's tough time I'm giving it. But he caught my hair just to prove a point. There were only 3 of us. To prove a point, he said, Juttu patkuntanra. ఒక్కసారి పట్టుకుంటే వదలను నేను వదలను నువ్వు వదులుతావు నేను వదలను సో he said you will forget me, you will let me go, I will not let you, and he held me really tight. And so that's the real guru. Once they enter into our life, it's not a chance that you read his book, and it's not a chance. It is an opening he has given, and it's going to bless our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. There is a Prahalada waiting in our generations to come and discover who he is, you know. Or Bhagavatam was given to the great grandson of Arjuna, correct? So Arjuna didn't think of all this. He wouldn't have even known, but later on somebody is going to pick up that. And Swami said, not 7 generations, 700 generations will benefit from you, you know. He has planted that, not in a conscious mind, but I'm talking about very deep karmic level, in a very deep unconscious level. He's planted something that is going to affect children and generations to come. I have no doubt about it at all. Absolutely no doubt. So let us not look at something now, what is happening in the world, and say, Sai Baba came and went and there is a war going on. It doesn't work like that. He's shown us a way. He set things in motion. Like for example, free medicine, right? He set it in motion. It will be a matter of time before medicine will become free. There is no doubt about it. May not be in our generation, but it is going to happen. It's already going there, right? Towards a large extent. How many free hospitals are opening in India and all of that? And it will happen. Even education, which is the business, he has started it free. So the avatar comes and says, all right, I just give a small sense of directions to these humans. He'll go. But slowly, the change will happen. You know, it's like the snowball effect, right? A small little snowball begins to roll down. It gathers momentum with every passing generation. It will gather. It never goes waste. Because he has spent a decade in each of these, right? A decade focusing on educational institutions. That time the hospital was small. Then he shifted his focus on the hospital, developed it fully. And so those can never go waste. Even imagine, for example, in 1960, I think it was 60, 69, 68 or 69, and a few years before that, Swami's 50th birthday. I'm not sure when he inaugurated Ishwaram High School. That was his first education institution he started. And then 1968 or so, he set up the first women's college in Anandapur. At his age, at that time, he was a trailblazer in all of this. How many people were starting graduate colleges for women, residential graduate colleges for women? In India, it was unheard of in 1968, right? He was a trailblazer there. But now look at that. Every guru, every ashram, everybody who starts will say, we also have free college, we also have free college. So it's become like a norm now. Who set that in motion? He has set it, right? So it's a matter of time before everybody catches on to it. The idea of sharing freely. It was the same thing with medicine, same thing. So all of this will never go waste. So it's an honor for us to be part of it. That's why I tell people, thank you for inviting me, because it's my chance to relive that joy that, hey, listen, this is, at some level, we are connecting back to that, the glory that we are given, this chance that we are given. Because we are not being punished like the disciples of Jesus Christ. They had to go into hiding, they were crucified, they were tortured for spreading the message of Jesus, correct? I think that we get a beautiful home, Satya opens his home like this, and we are sitting cozy, somebody's offering us chai, coffee. This is amazing. This is luxury dropped into our lap after an avatar goes. Krishna's devotees didn't experience that. Nobody experienced the kind of luxury we have, or the kind of setup. So we are already on a very, very nice platform. The opportunities are so beautiful for us to actually say, all right, let me do something with this life of mine. Now that Baba has come into my life, what am I going to do with my life? Let it go tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Then what am I doing today? Or the next 10 years, what do I want to do? Something, right? I think we all have an opportunity to sanctify our lives in some form. It doesn't have to be tangible. I don't know the answer for everyone. But we can ask ourselves that question, right? What can I do to make some difference somewhere? Maybe enrich someone's life. Maybe to your own children, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, in some form, let me leave behind the story of me. Let my great-grandchildren know that I had seen the avatar. Let it be written down and pass it on. You don't have to sell 1 million copies of that. But your little experience, whatever it is, can just benefit your children and your grandchildren. Let it be in a corner cupboard. Let your children say, my mother wrote something, and it'll be discovered by somebody else who will suddenly say, wow, this is a treasure. Where did you find that? So maybe we can all leave behind our experiences. It's not about big or small. Just leave behind, jot it down, write it, so that the future generations will know what the story was, what every devotee experienced. And if we can even take one little, an iota from his life and practice it, it is, I think, the greatest blessing.
Sairam Sunder.
Yes, please.
Welcome back to New York.
Thank you.
I have a question. It's on the same path that you're discussing. You talked about the vacuum. Swami has left, having left his physical form. My question to you is, this is from your own experience, how was it a challenge, or did this process of now not focusing on the external, did it accelerate your self-transformation, help accelerate that process of self-transformation, or was it more difficult that because you have been in close proximity with?
There were experiences for me in my own spiritual growth as part of Prashant Nilayam and stuff, when I realized I knew that I had to leave Puttaparthi. So in 1992 he performed my wedding, September 6th. And that was the last time he spoke to me on the wedding room. So I know his last words for me was when he materialized a watch and he put it on my wrist. He said, time is God, God is time. And he said, wear this watch. And that was it. So when we were taking pictures, families take pictures of Swami. So I was standing on one side, Maya was standing on the other side, and I was holding his hand. He whispered to me, he said, "Hold it as much as you want. This is the last time." And of course, that's the interview going on. I didn't understand. I was like, what does he mean? Is he just angry? Something, I think Chandra will also understand where I'm coming from. When you're close to him, you're thinking, you think, is his mood off? Did I do something? Was I not sitting straight? Or, something like that silly that you would immediately think. But I didn't understand the depth of what he said. And then I stayed 2 more years. He was very nice to me. He would play for my bhajans, and everything was, superficially nobody will know anything. And internally, a great change began to happen, and it accelerated so much so that it was something I never expected. And then it began to dawn on me what Swami said there. And then that acceleration, what I mean is, I began to, that closeness with Swami experience at a physical level, it began to create a distance for me. Like Swami would be standing, I would be looking at Swami and I wouldn't feel anything. Before I would be like, oh, Swami is there, Swami, I could feel. But now I could feel nothing. But then I began to understand and experience Swami at a much different level. Like in my meditations and so on. So my whole body will get aflamed. I used to be locked in lotus pose for hours, and all of that spiritual experiences began to accelerate. Now, in my own yogic mind, in my silly yogic mind, I used to think before wedding that I don't know what will happen after wedding to my sadhana, because we are brainwashed with ideas, right? If you marriage, your brahmacharya is gone, this, that. I used to think, I don't know what's going to happen to my sadhana, I had to keep up my practice, I was making up my mind, all that. But it almost seemed like effortlessly this just went off on a completely large scale. And this part of it, I started feeling the disconnect in a good way. I didn't miss Swami not talking to me. I didn't miss that. Normally I would have missed, even if it's 2 weeks, I would say, what is going on? Why is Swami? He would look at me, he'll smile, and he'll just, it is like done. I told you something is done. Now I can understand the meaning of those looks. But there was peace in my heart. But I was more caught up in what is going on in my own spiritual, what is this? So there was a point in 1994, I knew it is time to go. I knew that in my heart, I knew Swami has trained me enough in this yoga path, and I had to go and share this. I didn't know how or what. It wasn't so clear because it took another, 15 years for me to actually do that. It wasn't so clear, but I knew I had to come out of Puttaparthi. There was that strong knowing and calling, chalo, ho gaya, time is up, you have to go, And so I thought that when I eventually left Puttaparthi, and then the worldliness hit us. I mentioned in one talk recently, we came out of Puttaparthi, and then we realized, oh my gosh, I have to learn everything from scratch. Phone and spoon and fork, sitting on a chair and eating, using toilet paper, everything, right? Driving at 34, I learned how to drive a car, crossing busy streets, or meeting and greeting people and shaking hands. It took me a while, right? So we went into that mode of learning, and though Swami would come a lot in my dreams and this and that, I never felt the need to go back to Puttaparthi. Sometimes when the squirrel comes out in the spring, slightest sound, it will go back to its, or the groundhog will go back saying, maybe it's not ready, I need to go snooze. So, but I never got that feeling I should go back to Swami, I'm missing him. I never got that. I felt like there's something so covering me with that protection that I didn't miss him, So I thought I had really gotten over the form, and my meditation, my yoga, everything was going very fine. And of course, some of it got compromised because of just learning worldly things and all of that. But nevertheless, that went up and down. But when 2011 Swami passed away, then suddenly that door opened again. maybe because at some level I thought someday I would see him. But now I know that's not possible. So there is that. That's why I started saying there's a vacuum, right? The vacuum is not filled. I mean, it can't be philosophical saying, yeah, Swami is omnipresent beyond the physical form. Now it seems like, wow, that sense which I had, there seems to be a little hole there now, you know. Thank you, sorry. There seems to be an emptiness. I feel it again. But it's not an emptiness where I want to see him, but it's just an emptiness. It says, okay, you have to live with this now. I'm learning to live with it. So, have I gotten over his physical form? I dare not say that.
No, what I meant was,
But
have you internalized it?
yes, totally. But
You know, that's
so
what I'm
as I
saying.
practice now more and more spirituality, the more I read into Advaita, the more I practice my own, he comes more and more into my dreams, into my vision. It's just like he's there. He's saying, don't miss me, you know. So that's why I said earlier, you just go into spirituality and you see how he'll come. He'll be chasing you literally. Very happy that you finally you're doing what he wanted you to really do. Because he didn't want us to end up being only his devotees, you know. He's made it very clear, right? I've come to only spread the lamp of love, you know, that beautiful message he wrote for his brother. So there is that, I know he's with me, but I cannot deny the fact that there's a part of me that misses that physical thing, only because like I said, maybe that feeling like, oh my gosh, now I cannot go back to Puttaparthi or go anywhere with the hope that, because we take sometimes Swami for granted, no? We say, okay, later on we'll go and see him. Maybe, you know, I don't have time now. Maybe that was there in my subconscious, I don't know. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm just being very honest and saying that there is a part of me that will experience that vacuum, but there is another part of me that is experiencing him in his other form, which is very new to me, which is very beautiful to me, because it is not about yogic experiences and all of that, but everything seems to be filled with him, his love, his grace, his guidance, everything. And especially since I gave up my job and I started taking this path, it's like he's holding my hand literally and guiding me. And now there is a sense of so much security and so much peace that there is really no looking back. I'm just enjoying this path of being in the presence all the time. It's amazing. It's, I don't know what else to say, but yeah.
And he blessed you with a very good life partner who helped you in that sadhana
Oh,
too.
absolutely. When we first got married, I asked her, what do you think of children? Because in my mind, I said, you know, bandhan is okay, one marriage is okay. Because at some point I knew I'm going to teach yoga, I'm going to do this, and I knew I don't want any encumbrance. That was a knowing from a very long time for me. I don't know, I couldn't shake that. But I was ready to honor Maya's wishes. She said, what do you think? I said, no, I asked you first. She said, I'm not so much into kids. I said, oh, thank God. So listen now. So Swami's really, when you said chosen the life partner, why I'm saying it's from that point, what really clicked was, I told at some point I'm thinking of doing this, and I'm afraid we have children. Of course, it's not a burden. It's a good commitment, but it's a commitment, right? I can't say if I have children, I can't forgo my
lifelong.
Yeah, it's a blessing, of course.
Big,
It's a blessing, but you can't not do your duty then, right? And Swami doesn't tell us to run away from our duties. But when she said this, I said, so you really don't want children? She said, I want puppies, that's all. I love dogs. I said, I do too. So we had dogs. Up until 2015, we had 2 beautiful dogs, one German Shepherd, one Saint Bernard. We like big dogs, so those desires were fulfilled. And so, but in every way, yes, she was also, she joined Puttaparthi in 8th grade primary school, and she did her graduation in Anantapur. She served Swami's hospital for 2 years. That's when Swami got us married. So she's been raised in the Sai fold. She's very down to earth. I'm the one who is all about yogic experiences. She'll say, come time for food, you know. She's the one who keeps me grounded. But yes, that is all the more why I feel Swami prepared me for this, because I really have no excuse not to do this. Having the best friend and life partner all in one package. So both of us really enjoy doing what we do, and we really owe it to Swami. That's what, there's no other word. It was April 1st, 1992. My father was getting ready to go to Bhopal. He had spoken to Maya's parents and they had fixed Maya for me, because they dare not talk to me about marriage. I was already 32. I said, nobody's going to talk to me about it. But my parents, you know, they will just gently roll the ball, dice and see, only to find the dice flipped away. Because for us, it was, you know, when Swami is there, you dare not talk about all this. I'm very scared. You know how sensitive it was. I didn't want Swami to say, what? Marriage? Who's speaking about it? You know, so then my father's told me on April 1st, see, I'm thinking of this girl. I will come in the summer after I go to Bhopal. I'll come back. I'll talk to Swami about it. I said, I don't know. You take care of that. And then he went to Bhopal and he died there. In 9 days, he went there and he passed away. So when I came back, then Swami not only told exactly when he died and all that, because as my father died, for those of you who don't know that story, he went to Bhopal and died, and he always wanted to die in Puttaparthi. You know, he was an ardent devotee of Swami. And so when I heard my father died, Swami was in Kodaikanal. I was in Puttaparthi. I was handling the trust accounts that time. And my father was in Bhopal, because my sister was there. He went to spend time with children, his children and grandchildren. So he had gone there. And we heard he got a heart attack and died. So for me, it was, why would he die in Bhopal? I mean, he was serving Puttaparthi. He wanted to die in Puttaparthi. He would take people's, cremation. As a Brahmin, he said, this is my duty. So if hears somebody died who had nobody, he will go and, kanda dena. He will go and carry the cremation to the cremation, help them perform the funeral rites, and all of that he will do. And he would tell casually, like, if I were to die, I'll die here only. But he goes and dies in Bhopal, right? So I know that was his desire. And that was the only thing he desired, really. So when he died in Bhopal, for me it was like, what? How did that happen? How did Swami allow that to happen? So for me it was more of anger towards Swami than anything else. How could Swami allow my father to die in Bhopal then? What is the use of this? Having a guru, then you're doing this. It was not a faith or anything. By then I had spent so many years with Swami. I knew he's capable of all of this. He saved me from a snake bite, this, that, Hazar, all that was done. So it's not a matter of faith. I was just getting angry with him. Why did you? How could you? How does one explain this? For me, I needed explanation. How, when somebody is serving selflessly and he has this one desire, what is that desire? To die in Puttaparthi. Why can't that happen, right? So when I heard from my father died, I immediately rushed. I performed the final rites and everything. And then I sent a telegram to Swami and to the ashram secretary. This is what happened. It was 3-4 days later. Then I came back. When I came back, I came to Vrindavan to see Swami. Swami had come back from Kodaikanal then. He came out for darshan. And I was completely numb. I was like thinking, I don't know how to even look at Swami. I'm so angry with him. Why would this happen? But he came straight to me like a child. Hey, did the boys tell you? He's asking in Tamil, in Telugu. Pillalu cheppara niku? Pillalu cheppara? And I was like, what? What do the boys have to tell me? I'm here after my father's funeral. You're not asking me about my father or anything. You're telling me boys told you, like a 5-year-old, you know. I just looked at him like dumbfounded. He said, undu, vachi chattanu. Wait, I'll come and tell you. And he went off for darshan because Trai Vrindavan, you know, Swami is on his way out. So while I was waiting, one of the MBA boys came to me and he said, hey Sunder, sorry to hear about your dad. I said, yeah, thank you. Then he pulls out his diary. He said, hey, did your father die on April 19th? I said, yes, 20th. And he says, is it in the afternoon around sometime? I said, yeah, afternoon around 3:30, 4 sometime he died. And I asked him why. Why did you ask? Like, he said, you don't know? I said, what do you mean I don't know? He said, on that day, I've noted down my diary, when Swami was talking to us, he suddenly stopped talking. He looked up. Then he looked at us and he says, how many of you know Sunder Iyer? Then we all raised our hands. Then he said his father just reached my feet. The same time. So this is happening in Bhopal. I'm in Puttaparthi. Baba is in Kodaikanal, right? And he tells them, oh, his father, Dandapani, mention him name, Dandapani has come to my feet. So I don't know all this. I'm just busy getting angry with Swami there. And so when I heard this, I was shocked. I said, what do you mean, Swami said? He said, yes, Swami told us this. I said, wow, I was shocked. Then Swami had finished his darshan. He came back. He had people take for interviews, but he came first straight and called me. And he went and sat in his jula and he was swinging in his jula like a mighty lord. That was such a beautiful darshan. You know how Swami swings gently, right? But there he kicked the foot down and he started swinging. Only I am standing, okay? He's swinging and looking at me like this. Taking, what? What do you think? You know, he's not angry, but almost there was a tremendous power there. He said, what do you think? Your father prayed for Puttaparthi? What is Puttaparthi? I gave him my feet. Idi kavala, adi kavala. He asked for Puttaparthi, I gave him my feet. And then he said, you know why? Because he served me. Enduku telusa? Seva chesadu. And swinging, he said, you need marriage, right? There's a girl, right? And I'm like, oh, no, Swami. Yes, I know. I talked to your mother. I dare not say anything. Naak telusu, there is a girl. I know. I will talk to your mother when I come back. Go. That's all. That was a powerful, a part of Swami I'd never seen till then. He was really playing God there. I can't explain any other way. I can't compare him to any other. He was not angry. He was not scolding me. But there was that tremendous energy of, I know what I'm doing, okay? So you stay in your place. Let me orchestrate. It just put me in my place right there. I came back so shocked. Oh my God, it took me days, if not weeks, to even digest that experience of that darshan, of that moment, and overall his words. Then again, when he called my mother, that time he didn't call me. He came back to Puttaparthi in June. My mother's come back for the first time. He called us separately. He was about to call me. Then he said, no, you wait. Then I knew, gone case now. So he called my mother and he told my mother, where is that girl? You got something in your hand. She's taken my ass picture. Show me that girl. And so that's how Swami, he decided to completely take over my life at that moment. He was not giving me any choice. It was a very unique period in my life, in my relation with Swami. Suddenly he was not treating me as a student boy type. Suddenly it became a very different approach. And then he told my mother, okay, so not July, August, don't call her parents to come and see. We are boys' family. He's telling her, we should not go, let them come. Then my mother is saying, how, if I can't tell them, who will tell them? You don't worry, I'll take care of that. So like this, Swami played his own natak and he sent word to her parents to come and see him. And they came in July to see him in Vrindavan. He said, no, not now. Come after this Ashada Masam, And then they came, I think, late August or something, or in August, something like that happened. And then Swami fixed a date. He took over my life completely. I'm very grateful that Swami brought Maya into my life. And if I'm doing something now, it could not have been possible on my own. I begin to realize that, And so, yeah. It's fascinating for me how when you accept someone as a guru and you open your heart and you allow that guidance to flow, it's just magical how that guidance just begins to happen. But if we keep comparing ourselves with somebody else, then we are closing the door and the guru is waiting, okay, I've opened the door, I'll come. You are closing the door saying he's got so much, he have got so much, where have I got? Then we have closed the door, But don't compare. Right? Because I remember one boy telling Swami, I wanted, Swami, you gave him, you're not giving me. Swami said, I gave somebody else 10 times what I gave him. Why don't you ask about that person? Because you don't know about that person. Right? So, if we compare, then we kind of distance ourselves because we feel somebody else is closer or somebody else is a greater devotee and we are not. But that's why I said we have the opportunity now as much as anybody else has. There's nobody close or nobody far away. It's all in our minds. And if we are talking of past experiences, then that has to reflect in our lives today. If it doesn't, then no point saying, I got 50 interviews, 10 watches from Swami. But what has that affected now? Right? How is your life more enriched now? What are you doing with that experience is what the younger generation is going to ask. I was speaking to young children, SSC kids, and I'm very terrified to talk to them. I can talk to youngsters, I can talk to adults, but these little kids, they'll come up with asking. When they raise their hands, you're like, Gaya. So one auntie introduced me to these children very nicely, saying, he's been with Baba, he was so close, and this and that. And I thought all these children will look at me with big eyes. One kid, so what? That's all. So what? So what if you got all that? And that hit me like a thunderbolt. That's why I say people ask questions are actually gurus, especially children. So what? Because I think what they are looking at, so what? Okay, so what happened with all that, right? Are you also going to be now walking through walls or can you do that? Then, you know what I'm saying? As a child, okay, so what is there? And I think that's the question our generation is asking us. So what? Okay, he's God in your life, he's entered. Okay, so what? Are we still watching the same old movies, getting into the same old gossip, we get same upset over the same things as somebody who's not been in Swami's fold? Then what is the difference of me saying, I got this from Swami, I got that from Swami? It doesn't make any difference because the younger generation is going to say, so what? So what have you done? How is our lives better? Right? So we have that opportunity. That's why I said, if we leave a legacy behind saying, oh my God, these are all devotees of Swami, or he was a devotee of Swami, this is what he or she did with their lives, then they begin to draw on that energy. Today we know Ram, it is because of Hanuman, correct? If Hanuman had not done, and he was not getting pat from Ram, he was just one Manara among hundreds. He just chose to serve him, right? So he leaves a legacy of devotion and faith and service. And same thing with all these devotees. I mean, if you take Tukaram in Maharashtra or Mirabai in the north or anybody, or Alvars and Nayanars in the south, God becomes more real because of their stories, right? We hear devotees and then that God becomes more alive to us. So they become channels. So we can all be those channels for our children, for future generations. That's why I think that great opportunity is upon us. Right? Do you agree, or I mean, you feel free to disagree. It doesn't matter. But I don't think there's anything to disagree about this. The challenge is how to implement it, how to practice.
Sorry, I'm though.
No,
Sorry.
please.
Go ahead.
It's always a challenge. I think the problems that we all facing, what you were saying just now, us comparing our devotion to.
And I said, Swami, how to get rid of the ego? And Swami leaned forward and he said, what ego? I said, Swami, ego. He said, the big ego, like we all feel right now. How do we feel? How to get rid of the ego? What ego? Swami, ego, Swami, I. Ekkadundi I? Swami, that ego. I couldn't explain anything more. Then Swami sat back and he said, where are you from? Look at how his perspectives are, okay? How he makes us look at this. He says, where are you from? Swami, from Bombay. Where is Bombay? Swami, Maharashtra. Where is Maharashtra? Swami, western part of India. Where is that? Swami, Bharat Desham. I kind of went there. Bharat ekkada undi? Swami, Asia continent. Asia continent ekkada undi? Swami, Bhumilo undi, Earth. Earth ekkada undi? Swami, solar system. Solar system ekkada undi? Swami, Prapanchanlo, universe. Swami said, that universe, there are millions of such universes. In that universe, there is one solar system. In that, there is one Earth. In that Earth, there are 7 continents. In that 7 continents, there are so many billions of people. In that, there is one continent, Asia. In that continent, there is India. In that India, and he comes down, Maharashtra lo, Bombay lo, Okko Sunder unnadu. Where is the room for that I? And it made me feel so tiny. Where is the room? ఈగోకు స్థలం ఎక్కడ ఉంది ఈగోలే లేదు నీ ఇమాజినేషన్ అది see that perspective he gives us we are clinging to an imagination that I exist also I really don't exist really and I'm not being philosophical that I is so
Minuscule, right?
so minuscule and actually if I don't exist it's really not all revolves around me you ask me which is east, I will tell you east from my right or left. Not from where east is. I'll say, oh, east is to your right? No, it's my left. We'll say, right? It's like that. We see things from our perspective and the whole world seems to revolve around this imaginary I, which you call the ego. But can we begin to look at, really, you know what? This is a shadow. I'm fighting it. And Swami went on to explain beautifully. He said, stop worrying about that ego. Don't feed it. You're fighting a shadow. How much more you fight, that ego will be there till not only this life, any janmadralu untundi, nee dagare untundi. Endukante that's only a shadow. Don't worry about the shadow. Ignore it. Easier said and done. But we need to think on those lines rather than think ego as some evil thing standing in between me and something. Ego is really not even existing. We have created that imaginary sense. Sunder is an imagination in this jiva's mind, if you will. And instead of experiencing life as the jiva, it's trying to now it's understood itself as Sunder, and it's reduced itself to being Sunder, not understanding that. So it's like saying, Sunder is like a bottle through which the water flows. He's just a bottle. Bottles have really no consequence, right? Somebody gives you a very beautiful mug, but then inside the water is dirty. You're not going to say the mug is clean, it's okay, I will drink. You're not going to touch that water, right? So it doesn't really matter here. Of course, to some extent it has to be clean and stuff like that, but when we identify ourselves falsely with this imaginary idea of Sundar somehow being more important, we have created that. See, when we are studying Sundarakand, Arjuna, the Sundarakand chapter is considered very important for a reason, because Hanuman's journey is our journey to find Sita. Sita is what? Our hidden divinity. She is lost in the Ashokavana, in Lanka, which is down. It's all very symbolic from a yogic perspective also. These are all hidden knowledge that we get, right? And Sita is hidden, Sita is lost. Hanuman, the prana, the vayu, he goes in search. Right? And he has to become small to go there. That means you have to become tiny. might and the jumping the ocean, all the sadhana that he did. I have done yoga, I have done tapas, I have done this and that. All that he had to reduce and become tiny and go and sit and wait for Sita to look up at him. He couldn't do anything else. See that there's so much beauty in that. So that ego that we think of has to finally just realize, you know what? It's of no consequence. It won't get me anywhere. So the more we, for me, how I've learned is, let us just simply stop comparison. That's why I said even in devotion or in any form of life, in any aspect of our lives, I don't need to compare myself with somebody else, even my set of values with somebody else's set of values. And especially in terms of good and bad. These words good and bad have been somehow ingrained into us. For Swami, there was no good and bad actually. He never saw good and bad. If somebody is listening to a music I don't like, I can't say that is bad music. I'll say I can't tune into that. If somebody is getting into a conversation I'm not inclined to get into, I don't say that's a bad conversation. I just say, you know what, I can't tune into that anymore. So I excuse myself. Let him have it. Maybe he or she is getting into that. That's fine. I can't tune into this anymore. So I don't have to judge anybody as evil, bad, good. Because the more I judge somebody, then I am taking the opposite. That means I'm still clinging on to a false sense of what is good, what is bad. How can I rise above this? You know what I'm saying? To me, a large extent is realizing that at the end of it all, whatever we achieve in this life, or whatever we do, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do. Because we are not doing it, if I'm doing it, if Sunder is doing it for Sundar's benefit, then it really doesn't matter because Sunder doesn't really exist. It's an imagination. I know it sounds abstract, right? When we go into this kind of philosophical discussion, then what's the point? And then we become hippies and we might just say, chalo, just sleep and eat. And then you're going into sensual indulgence. That is also not going to help you. So if we're really given no choice but to discover then who we are, who am I really? Then this ego won't find a place when I really go deep inside and begin to understand who am I really? What is my connection with Swami? What is this experience all about? So the way Swami opened those doors for us is very, very, very unique. In these kind of simple conversations, he began to throw light into a deeper understanding. Like I always tell this also in gatherings. Another time, two of us were sitting, one boy was coughing, we were both pressing Swami's feet. And Swami said, hey, you got a cold? He said, no, Swami, it's okay. You feel shy because you're sitting in front of Swami, you can't do like this also, right? Swami will immediately look at you because he's so much in the moment. Every matter, every shake in your body, right? When we sit in front of Swami, everybody is so alert and mindful because he's watching everyone. He's with us in that moment, it's really an amazing experience. Anyway, so he cleared his throat. Swami said, what happened to your cold? Do you have a cold? He said, no, it's okay, Swami. Tell your cold to go away, it should go away. Then we both smiled at Swami. Come on. Very gently we smiled. And then Swami said, oh no, yeah. See, when if I cut my hand and blood comes out, I tell my blood, hey, go back, it'll go back. And we were like, oh yeah, of course we can do it. We gave him that look. We didn't tell him anything. We were like, oh, okay, where is this? We don't know sometimes where is Swami going with these conversations. Okay, and we're continuing to press his feet, looking at him. Then this boy said, but Swami, you are, name no. Swami, you are God. Oh no, what about you? I'm Swami. How dare we say, Swami, I am also God. So we just looked at him. Then he beautifully leaned forward. He said, Cheppandi, meeku naku em difference? What is the difference between y'all and me? Tell me. He's just looking, just three of us, right? Like between us, let's talk. What is the difference? I have 2 eyes. How many eyes you have got? 2 eyes. You have 2 hands. How many hands I have got? 2 hands. You got 2 legs. I've got 2 legs. Then he, how Swami go, walking, talking, reading, writing. No kuda chestavu, nenu kuda chestavu. Ekkada undi difference? And the way he looked at us and we are looking at him, at that moment, we couldn't raise our hand and say, we know the difference, right? Because there is really no difference. He's saying, tell me what is the difference? You're exactly, I'm like you, you're like me. So what's the difference? And then we are looking at him. No difference, no, he said. Then we had to say no difference. We said no difference. Swami. Difference undi, there is a difference. The moment we agreed no difference, he said, undi, difference undi. Difference undi. He said, there is a difference. And very beautifully he said, you know where the difference is? Ekkada telusa neeku difference? Where is the difference? Ikkada undi. He did like this. Ikkada undi. So eyes, you know how dumb we are sometimes. You're looking at eyes. Eyes. Then he said, chupulo. That means in perspective, there is a difference. Then very beautifully and very powerfully, listen to this. He says, you think you're a small little atom in this vast universe. Avuna kada? Yes, Swami. That was easy for us, right? To think, who am I? I'm nothing in this vast. That's our comfort zone, right? That's our go-to place, literally. So he says, you all are thinking that. I think the whole vast universe is a small little dot in my consciousness. Nalo, not even my consciousness. In me, the universe is a small speck in me. You think you're a small speck in this universe. Are they a difference? Change your perspective. Then there is no difference. Look at that. When did we last set up and say the whole universe is in me? When was the last time we thought about it? Right? We don't usually think of it. It's easy for us to think, who am I? I'm small, I'm small. And in that being, imagining I am small, we actually imagining ourselves to be very important. That's what Arjuna did, right? In Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter is Arjuna saying, who am I to fight? I don't want to fight. I'm not interested in this. Let them take all the villages. Krishna, leave me alone, right? I'm being small is actually ego only telling him. No, you're very big. Go into the self-pity mode and this assumed humility mode and stay there. Krishna keeps quiet. He doesn't talk because Arjuna is full of this. Then Krishna wakes him up and says, you're not that. You are, Atma. And the whole second chapter is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga. So, when Swami said that, it was like, oh my gosh, that is the difference between us and Swami. The perspective. The way he looks at it is so different from the way you and I look at the world. We don't think like all of this is actually energies in my consciousness is actually manifesting in some manner. Let me learn. If somebody is hurting me, I look at myself, what did I do to draw that experience into my consciousness? There must be some block in me that is manifesting like this, creating that energy in my life. I need to work removing that block. And believe me, I'm telling you out of the experience after so many decades, after trying to practice that, what Swami said, when I remove, I won't know it consciously, but when I become more mindful and try to remove whatever blocks in me, that person or that circumstance just magically goes away it just disappears. It's not there anymore. So it is, for me, it's a matter of complete conviction now that every physical manifestation first happens inside, right? Correct? Like if Satya has bought his home, for example, at some level it started in his head and that finally manifested here, right? May not have happened overnight, but it took time, right? He probably saved up and he probably applied for a loan, this, that, all of that. We all do that, right? And it's a matter of process by which this house manifests. But this design in the house, the way it's colored in the house, the way it's furnished in the house, the way it is located, and all of that is a reflection of what's going on in him, his core. Like when you visit somebody's home, you'll know what that person is. Like you get an idea, correct? So what is that physical manifestation? Isn't that a manifestation of something from within? If that is true, why don't we apply that in all aspects of our lives? If you have a tough boss I'm dealing with, then I need to ask myself, what am I doing to draw this every day in my life? There must be something I need to correct inside. So in the yoga manner, they look at it as blocks in your own energy system. When it's blocking, it's manifesting itself as an illness, as a loss, as conflicts and all of that. When we go within and start cleansing ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, then those blocks seems to vanish. not seem to vanish. They do vanish. They just go away. Then we realize, oh my God, I am the architect. I can actually architect my reality. So imagine, where does Namasmarana fit into this? Imagine if I'm constantly now contemplating, not on my little self, but I'm contemplating on the glory of Sai, the glory of Rama. I'm sorry, do you need water or something?
No, I'm fine.
You're good? If you're contemplating on Rama, Krishna, listening to those stories, raising our minds at that level, then what happens is those energy systems, that energy, because we're dealing on a higher plane, they begin to cleanse that internal space in us. They remove the negativity, And when they remove that, then automatically external circumstances seem to orchestrate themselves just accordingly. And it might be a difficult pill to swallow, right? I don't expect you all to buy this. But I feel in principle, it seems very logical that everything in our lives is actually a manifestation of the inner core. So how do we change that inner core? So Swami gives us that beautiful answer. He says, don't settle for anything less. Start saying, I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. Right? I am Akanda Parabrahman, Satchitananda Rupa. Start saying that. It seems ridiculous at times. It says, alright, I don't even feel it. No, you won't feel it, but start saying, don't wait for your feeling to come. Start saying it, because if you don't start saying it, feeling won't come. If the feeling doesn't come, it won't manifest. What's the first step? Start saying it. Start believing the highest. So you're changing the innermost core to the I am God. I am not separate from God. Fear and anxiety can never enter me. Grief and anxiety can never enter me. Fear affect me. Fear cannot enter me. I am God. There's a whole 5-line mantras, right? So He's given you the highest. Start saying that, because when you start saying that, then that God inside, the real God within you, will begin to orchestrate life. And that is what it is meant by when we do Phalasrutis after Lalita Sahasranama. They say, Lalita will give you all of this. You look around and say, where? Nothing is happening in my life. I'm still having the problem. Because we are just doing it superficially without feeling that Lalita is within me. Or in the Bible it says, first you seek the kingdom of God and all these shall be added unto you. Because once you open that kingdom inside, then for God anything is possible, right? And why would you create illness in this body? He would orchestrate it. He would make ways for this body to express itself in much better manner, right? So Sunder cannot fix Sunder. Sunder has to forget Sunder. Sunder has to take Sunder and surrender it to the Sai within. And when he surrenders and allows Sai to begin function, then Sai takes over. When Sai takes over, then there is only love, and that love finds its form and begins to bring positivity around. Somebody else watching him might say, poor fellow, how much he's suffering. But for that person in his consciousness, there will be no suffering at all. That is what, with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, right? He had cancer. But did he feel that pain? No, he was in a completely different consciousness. Same thing with Ramana Maharshi. So in our consciousness, we will not see negativity, we will not see evil, we will not even experience it. Wherever you look around, you will only see divinity, because the inner divinity has changed your reality. I totally believe in this. When Swami says you take one step, I'll take 100 steps. This is exactly what he means. You just take one step towards that core teaching of mine. Watch how I will take 100 steps and begin to open that door. Then life becomes very enriching. It's magical. Right? Do I make sense, or am I just on a roll? But I really, really believe in it. I completely believe in it. I know. When I gave my job in 2011, I thought a part of me was telling, you're completely insane doing this, right? But then with Swami gone, they had to do something. There was that same call which made sense in Puttaparthi, that you had to get out to do something. That call came back with all great force. Because when Swami was in the hospital 2 weeks before he passed away, I had this most amazing dream. I've never dreamt of Swami in a wheelchair. Never, because I've never seen him like that. So in my consciousness, unconsciousness, it's not there. Even if somebody wants to say it's all your subconscious things coming as a dream, I don't see it. I don't like to see those pictures. I'm just not interested in that picture, right? Because I like to remember Swami as we saw him in the 80s and 90s. So I had this very extremely vivid dream, and I keep seeing Swami in many dreams, but never have I dreamt after that or before that, except for that one dream. He's sitting on a wheelchair, and I'm sitting. It was a Purnachandra auditorium or something. Some shows going on, but I'm sitting facing him. He's sitting on the wheelchair like this, leaning, and he's drooling from his mouth, and he's taking his handkerchief like this, and he's looking at me, and he's talking to me something, right? But the meaning of that became very clear to me in the dream. He said, "Can you speak for me? I cannot speak anymore." Then I am like, "What do I speak, Swami? What do I speak?" He says, "Can you walk for me?" You see, I can't walk anymore. What do I walk, Swami? Where do I go? In the dream. He does like this. And then I woke up from that dream. My whole body was filled with light. I was sweating from head to toe. That moment I knew something had happened, but I knew for sure that Swami was not going to recover from that. It just came to me very clear. I tried to deny that as a dream, but 2 weeks later we all know what happened. So with that dream happening and Swami passing away, I knew I had to do this. But where am I going with that? That one step I took, opening, like giving up the job, thinking I'm making a big step. It was a very tiny step. But the way Swami just opened all kinds of support and everything, and it was a learning process, definitely. But then at no point did I again feel left out or like, what did I do? I want to go back. I want to retrace my step. I never felt it. I felt comforted at every level. And he would be there guiding me in so many levels. So I firmly believe that you take that little step towards doing something and you'll find him giving strength. May not be in a materialistic sense. I didn't win a lottery for sure. But it doesn't matter, not that kind of thing. But there is a much greater richness that I experience even to this day. That I don't think any material wealth can even come close to. And especially now that we went all out to do things online and we're doing more, the spiritual experiences are becoming so much more that the enrichment is fantastic. You feel so much of spirituality is a real thing. That's why I keep saying that. It's not philosophy. God is not a matter of belief or faith. It's your higher self. It's real. It's waiting to manifest in our lives so that we begin to live our lives more fully. We aren't living it fully. We are living in a very small, little, shallow idea of, because I've restricted myself to being Sunder and what Sunder is capable of. And therefore my whole life I live with this mistaken identity that somehow I'm Sunder. But I am not that. That Sunder is one small part of me. I am much larger. Then who am I? I have to go with that, right? So with Swami, he taught us that. If you look at Swami's life, look at him. A villager who 8th grade dropout. How does that happen? How does a villager where have we heard these kind of stories? Somebody had told us this happened 200 years ago. You will say, that was that time. Nowadays, it cannot happen. But it happened now. We heard of Jesus Christ being born as a son of carpenter. And he became the son of man. We thought that was, I don't believe in all those stories. We heard Krishna was born in a prison. He was raised as a cowherd. He became the emperor of Mathura. We're like, yeah, give me a break, cowherd becoming. So we dismiss that as a matter of faith. But in our own times, a boy born up and raised in a village, not even on the map of India. And you and I, whoever's into business, we think of names, right? Branding, and think of that location. Think of location, where do we locate our shop? Where do we locate a Sai Center? Everybody has to park, everybody has to do this. We think of location. Look at a location a master takes for birth to spread the global message. Shouldn't it be in like metropolitan city? Some God-forsaken village somewhere which is not in. So he is telling, and Swami would say, give me nothing, I will turn it into everything. And his life is an example of that. What if he was born in New York? Maybe he's got a degree in Harvard or something, and then decided to do everything he did. We would say, yeah, I mean, if I had a Harvard degree, I can also become an avatar. Right? We would have that excuse. What if he was a son of a very rich landlord? We could have said, yeah, if I was raised with a rich parents, I could have also done something. So here is a master saying, I'm born in a completely godforsaken village. I barely studied 8th grade in a school. You know what kind of school that must have been. I mean, you and I won't dare send our children or anybody we know anywhere close to schools like that. Right? And he drops out of the school. We'd say it doesn't matter because I don't think there was any education going on anyway. So he drops out of that school. And at 13, 14 years, he decides to spend his life spreading message. And as his parents come and say, good for you, we are with you, they are like, oh God, what happened to you? You're possessed. And so they put him to all that kind of, horrible treatments in the villages to drive the spirit away. They beat him and whip him and all of that. So when you look at that, like how does one come from there to establishing a world-renowned university, super specialty hospitals, a global center where it's become pilgrimage? He turns the whole village around. He didn't go seeking people. People came seeking him. Roads were built to build. Imagine there was no road to go to Puttaparthi. Highways none. As a national highway going into Puttaparthi, there is an airport built in Puttaparthi. How does one do that with one life? What more proof you want about divine expressions? Right? But the more than trying to prove it's divine or not, for me, the beauty is how he gives us a role model. He's like, you can do everything with nothing. Don't look for excuses, because then you will always find something missing and you're waiting for that missing link to fall in place, then you will do something. That missing link will fall in place, you will look for the next missing link. And we are constantly looking, if this happens, I will do. If that will happen, I will do. If that will happen, I will do. After my retirement, I will do selfless service. After my retirement, I will be sick. Because I've been spending all my money now, I'll do for it. After I get well, Swami, you're not giving me that chance. So we create excuses to not do, but he had every excuse not to do. He had every excuse to be a villager. He was not a villager. He was every excuse to be an uneducated, just a normal, regular person, but he wasn't, right? So what are these masters teaching us? That we really have to simply believe in who we are and go out and do what we want to do. Don't wait for the ducks to line up in one row. I find that's a very powerful message of Swami's life. And that motivates me, right? And I'm thinking, I left Puttaparthi, then I thought, I have to get a job first, then I will start teaching yoga. How can I teach yoga? How much to charge yoga, right? I've got finance and banking in my head going on. So my brain is trying to calculate. It took me 15 years to understand. Foolish fellow, just don't worry, just get into that and see. Just get into it and start doing it. That is the beauty of what Swami teaches us, and it needs that plunge of faith. Now I understand what took Hanuman to take that leap across the ocean. Did he see Sita? No. He had no, Instagram message sent to his phone saying this is how Sita looks like, or he didn't have a WhatsApp message or anything like that. He had no idea who Sita was. Now, did he have a GPS to calculate what was the distance he had to jump? I mean, how can I foolishly jump? We have to lay the pros and cons. He had no idea. He didn't know where Lanka was. He's just depending on an old Jatayu who says, yeah, Lanka is there, go for it. That's all Jatayu told him. And so he says, okay, there is an island there. I need to jump. I don't know who Sita is. And all he's heard is there's a big demon there. So anything to scare him. So all these, as Valmiki writes, the story is something where we all put ourselves and ask, they had a task to do. They know Sita is there because Jatayu has seen her going there. But they don't know what she is, how she looks like. And there's a demon there, Ravana the Great, he has a bad reputation. So all these Vanaras, how much can you jump? 1 hour, I can jump maybe 30, I can't do more than that. And Valmiki says, he says all of them are capable of doing what Hanuman did. Hanuman also knew it. But they it was that fear, right? So and one person said, I can go, but I don't know if I can jump all the way back. So I don't know, everybody was hesitating. Then Jambavan as a guru reminds Hanuman, listen, you have it in you, jump. And so Hanuman takes that leap of faith. It's a great lesson for us, right? I mean, when we take up a project, we think of all the pros and cons. We think we are intelligent. But that was based on a very, very, very superficial education that says, take your strengths, weaks, opportunities, and threats and make a decision. So it's all based from an ego point of view. The heart is not speaking, the mind is speaking. I'm not saying it's bad, but we've gone too much to that side. We're not leaning on the other side. We're not listening to the heart anymore. We don't. It's all flaking. Yeah, faith, belief, and all. Let's be practical. Nobody will come if you start a center here. We're being practical. We're not looking at the other side. The place is beautiful. The place is magnificent. No, there are no roads. Don't start there. But what if somebody comes there? They find it so magnificent that they want to keep coming there. We miss that point. I'm just giving an example of a center because something we can relate to. If you're buying a place or setting up a center, we all think of parking is there, where is the parking, how many people can come, who's staying close by, are all our friends staying close by, if it's too far, who will come? But look at Swami, what he said. Why I'm saying this is during PhD, Swami took us to Chennai. Again, very sweet of him. When we had to go to, those days we didn't have computers or internet and all that. So in banking research, we had to go to actual banks, sit and open those big. Oh my God, I should read those sessions. Go and sit and open those balance sheets. They will give you all the printed, published documents are there, right? The banks keep. So we had to go to Chennai, Reserve Bank of India. All three of us chose banking. So we had to do. And Swami wasn't Puttaparthi. He got very annoyed knowing he had to go to city. No need. Let's bring all that library books here. Then he took time for registrar and others to convince him, no, Swami, it's not possible. Banking, they have to go out and do. Because other science, laboratory only, right? They didn't have to really travel. So Swami said, okay, then I will go with them. They won't even know how to cross the road. I have to go. See how he was so... He wasn't thinking, I've got a mission to do, these three boys, okay, let them do. You know how we will do, right? If we have a big project, okay, you do the altar, and you do this, we are best in delegating thing. But for him, he had to pay attention to, these boys, where are they going? How will they know? What is city? They don't know. They have been raised here so many years. So he said, I'll also go. Not that he was coming with us to bag, but he wanted to make sure where they're going, where they're coming, where they'll stay, right? Very sweet of him. I forgot why I was saying this, but I don't know, I've suddenly lost track. Could you help me? What was I saying before this?
That in the PhD, banking was chosen.
So before that, you were talking about how we are thinking about, the center is in.
Oh yes. I don't know why I'm completely blank.
The focus, you have to start things from wherever you are, irrespective of the circumstance.
I know.
Swami started it in Parthi, grew it, made it an empire.
And you're talking about the practical.
That time he stayed in one auntie's house.
Oh yes, thank you. So that's a beautiful thing. The story I was coming to. So he took us to Madras. And so he came to Madras. That's why I was coming to tell you how Swami's mission was seen by his devotees around him, right? So, and then he took us to lunch. One old devotee of mine, come, I'll take you to the house for lunch. So we went to that house for lunch. Very old lady. And Swami playfully would tell her, after lunch we all sat down and Swami told her, go get your albums, show them boys. She had some really good collections of old pictures of Swami. And Swami would tell her, can I take that picture? No, Swami, Swami will have a good laugh. So it was such a sweet relationship between them. And then he said, oh, tell these all buffaloes sitting, eating, sleeping. What he would say? In and out, something he would say. Anyway, these are buffaloes. Tell them some experiences. So that lady started talking to us. And one thing that stays with me, among other things she said, is vague. But one thing that stayed with me was, it seemed Swami would go to her house, knock at any time. Like he would find his way to that place. and hitchhike a ride, or later on he even got his own car or something. He would drive, or he will, because he's on his mission mode, right? So he didn't wait for devotees to come. Look at I find all those stories very fascinating. He's working hard for his mission. So he's going and knocking her door at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the night, and Chano, I'll stay here for a few days, I have to do bhajans and all that. And then she said he will come and do bhajans, and we'll have to tell him, Swami, please have coffee or tea, or go to sleep. Enough, Swami, we also need to sleep, you know. And then she said one thing, we told Swami so many times, you're young, we know we want to help you in your mission. Why don't you do something in Madras, or we have connections in the British government, we can get you something, you can set up your center here. Who will come searching for you in that Puttaparthi? Swami, please listen. But he would not listen to them. He would say, no, that is my place, that is where it's going to happen. So for me, that is very fascinating. You know, when people around him were telling Swami, oh, we are with you, Swami, yes, go and start, we will support you there. No, actually they're saying, no, you come here. Because common sense, don't go there somewhere, who will come searching for you? But Swami proved everyone otherwise. Because he had made up his mind. I think the power of making up one's mind is amazing. That's what we can learn, correct? Mm-hmm. Let us not, the mistake we could do is, when I say mistake, I mean it with a pinch of salt. Don't mistake me here. It's not like we would say, oh, he is God, he can do, and we can't do. That becomes a mistake. Why? Because if he was God and he could do, why should he even take avatar then? Right? Why? What is the need for that incarnation? But he sets a role model, saying that, hey, this is how you can really live your life. Just draw upon your inner resource. Why are you depending on external resources? I wish I had education is a crutch for us today. Job is a crutch for us today. Social status is a crutch for us. We lean on it for confidence, correct? The way we look or the way we feel is all the crutches we feel, all that is important. But here comes a guru who says, none of that is important. You give me nothing, I will build everything. So what is missing is our faith in ourselves, our faith in our divinity. And that he proved. Believe you are divine and watch what you can do. Right? Don't you agree? I think that's a core. If he says my life is my message, that's what it is. So why can't we believe really in ourselves and say, hey, I make up my mind, it will happen. I know it will happen. And I have to be ready to put up with anything. Then the universe begins to pave the way.
That
In
is
one's-
self-confidence.
Yes.
You talk about self-confidence.
Yes. That self-confidence comes from a core inner belief that knowing there is a divine element in me that will manifest, that will make it happen. You have to invoke that divine, right? That, we have in the rituals, avahanam. An omnipresent God, why do you have to call them? What is the meaning then? Why are we calling a God into a ritual? That means we're awakening God's self within. We are thinking is coming from somewhere and settling down here. But the idea is actually that external thing is an internal process, right? This is only a symbolic ritual. But what's happening is when you call upon God, you're awakening that God self from within. When that happens, then things begin to manifest very beautiful, but we don't draw upon that in resources. We think money is very important. So I think money is important, you think money is important, we all think money is important. Is it right? No. Yes, but only to some extent. It is not the be-all and end-all of everything. If I know that, then how much time am I spending on other things other than perhaps making money or worrying about money or saving? What am I doing? What else am I doing? Correct? We need to ask, I'm not saying give up a job or do anything. I'm just saying we need to ask ourselves these questions, right? What does really matter in life? What are we learning then from Sadgurus like these, from avatars like these of Krishna and Rama and Sai? They're coming, proving again and again. Swami would tell us, if I had come with 4 arms and Shankha and Chakra, you would have put me up in a museum. Right? I came with 2 hands, I came like you, to behave like you, and to be like you, to show you that even you can do this. And yet what we do is we place him up and say, no, you can do, but somehow I cannot do. It's almost we are refusing ourselves that divine opportunity. That's what I feel. I feel very strongly that if we miss that part of Swami's teaching, that his life is his message, then we analyze what he did with his life in a broad scale, we take a step back and look at that, then what am I waiting for? Correct? How can I sanctify my life? Anything small, it doesn't matter. Even squirrel did something for Rama and he got blessed. It doesn't, size doesn't matter. You don't need to have 1 million followers on YouTube, or you don't need to do all of that. That's why I said, let's not compare. Just say, this is what I feel I can do and I want to do. And then that door opens more and more and more. Enriching is the best part. It was a sports meet and I was terrified of one event that I was planning, because I knew other boys were risking this thing, and I was nervous because I was very young and I was handling event like that in front of Swami. Something goes wrong, then how can I even show my face to Swami and all of that? Because we were doing, some of the stunts were dangerous and we didn't have those kind of high-end props, right? We roll on the ground, there'll be some cotton things, we'll just roll and finish us, roll on the ground and do it. So I expressed that fear to Swami about a week before a sports meet. I said, Swami, konjam bayanga undi Swami. He said, enduku bayamu? Why are you afraid? I said, no Swami, there's so much going on, nobody should get hurt. Swami, your grace is required. Then instead of saying my grace is that I am there with you, Swami said a very beautiful thing. He said, Chudu, if your act is selfless, then you have anugraha. When you have anugraha, all the navagrahas will come and serve you. He said that as a Telugu quote. He said, anugraham unte navagrahalu kuda ni, something like that. He said, I can't recollect that. But he said, all of that will come and work. You have nothing to fear. And so, those kind of lessons stay with me for life. I feel that's why I said we want to do something to sanctify life. What do I mean is, how can we enrich somebody else? If we do that for somebody else, then the universe begins to flow through you, because it's not for you. If I say this is for me, then I stop it, right? Swami would always say, you become a well. You can be a big well, but it's a matter of few days that water becomes stale, however big you are, right? Maybe one will take a few days, one might take a few months, but that water will become stale. But what if you're a perennial river? The water will never become stale. The water will always be fresh, but the water will always be flowing. So the concept of being an instrument of God, which Hanuman was, which Arjuna said, Krishna, you work through me, and all of that, right? The lessons we learn from that is, when you begin to allow his teaching to flow through you, I think he flows through you. Then he brings the whole universe flows through you, and things begin to manifest. And you're not in the picture actually. You're just being used as a channel to make things happen. And you just say, okay, I'm so grateful this is happening. And that's all. You just begin to enjoy the journey of being used by the divine. When the job he feels is done, let him. But when that really happens, you feel so enriched. You feel grateful. You have nothing to demand. You're saying, I'm being given the greatest opportunity for this to happen. Let it flow. Let it flow. We don't have to pretend to be anything or anybody. In fact, we have to be a nobody. Get out of the way and let it happen. Then Swami works wonders. He really works wonders. To me, Swami is a very, very alive energy, very powerful energy, a cosmic divine energy that is really available for us to experience. Let us not lock him away at some God who is distant from us, who is not listening to us. We like to put that drama sometimes. Why you are not listening to my prayer, Swami? Why are you testing me, Swami? I used to ask those questions, and Swami would get so angry. Oh my gosh. Buddhi ledunu. Hysteria. There was a time when I used to think I was devoted, and I really learned how Swami would say this. Hysteria, Niku. Tell other boys, don't even be like him, and this and that. So much he used to get angry because I used to ask Swami, why are you not talking to me? Why are you testing me? Aim to test you. Where am I testing? I'm not testing anybody. It's all your imagination. And Swami why was he angry? He didn't like this idea of creating distance between him and his devotee. He doesn't like that. It is not his nature. And that very discourse where he was really angry with me and scolded me, he told this story about, we've all heard it, but I think it's nice to remember, remind ourselves. He said when Draupadi was being disrobed in the quote. She cried, "Oh Krishna, from Vrindavan, where are you?" Right? Vrindavan Vihari, no answer. She's continuing to be disrobed. She gets desperate. She says, "Oh, from Gokula Vasi, where are you? From you who helped Gopikas in Gokula, you were there, you helped them, where are you?" And then no answer. Then finally she says, "Hridaya Vihari, where are you?" And then magic happens. So within us, I mean, then why are we creating that distance? Why are we thinking God is somewhere up there, He's going to answer my prayers? Even before you know, He's answered it. He knows it. But in praying, sometimes we call it praying, but we create that static. We stop it. We stop our communications because we think we are praying, but we are actually indulging in self-pity. And we close the door. Just Arjuna indulged in self-pity in the Bhagavad Gita. And in the first chapter, Krishna doesn't talk at all. Right? That's why Adi Shankara writes his commentary from the 11th sloka of the second chapter. He's not interested in writing commentary on that. He says, I don't want to deal with that energy at all. I don't want to go there. Adi Shankara is not interested. His commentary begins only from the second chapter. Because that first chapter is only full of Arjuna Vishada Yoga, it's called. It is about Arjuna and his despondency. It's Arjuna and his self-pity. He thinks he's praying and talking to Krishna, but he's not eliciting any response from Krishna till he comes to a point, he says, I don't know, Krishna, I'm surrendering completely to you. You tell me what to do. Then Krishna wakes up and says, you stupid man, get up, do your duty. He comes pretty strong on Arjuna. So that is a lesson for us, right? How did I learn this and I end with this? I don't know. Oh gosh, is it too late? It's probably late. I have a problem.
It's hard to stop you, brother. That's the problem.
You're not late.
Please tell me now. I'll just share this because I think how I learned these things is because you just reminded me, Brother Mike, about this Soham incident. I know some of you might have heard this before. This concept of prayer, right? How when we ask Swami, why Swami doesn't listen to us? Why does God doesn't listen to us when we think we're asking and praying? Perhaps our approach to prayer is wrong, or maybe not right? Let me put it that way. How did I learn this? So Swami came once to the hostel in those days, and all my ears were open to Swami talking something about yoga, meditation, something. So the moment Swami had put me on that path of yoga, do yoga, teach yoga, I was completely into it. And when I got into it, my whole soul opened to that practice. I don't know. I know now that it's from previous lives. But at that point, I didn't know. I just loved it. I spent hours doing yoga in the mornings and so on. So when Swami would talk, I would say, Swami, give me direction. Swami, please give me something to practice my sadhana, talk about meditation or something. That discourse he gave in the hostel was on Soham. The discourse was general, but he covered a lot on pranayama Soham. What does Soham mean? He said Soham is that. Soham. That I am. That is the meaning of Soham. So he would say, when you inhale the cosmic being, so. And when you breathe out, let your little ego go out, hum. So that clicked. I said, what a great sadhana it is. I can bring it into my pranayama practice. Inhale so, which is Shiva. Inhale so, and hum. So hum. So I thought I will do that. And so Swami finished his discourse on Sunday. Then I thought, okay, by then it was a few years, so every class had its chance to stand first in the line and go for darshan. Boys just couldn't blindly run, right? So I knew our class would get a chance on Thursday. That gives me 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, to practice. I could sit first in the line and elicit some kind of response from Swami. So I diligently practiced 3 days. I didn't speak to anybody. I was just constantly in Soham mode. I was just vaguely looking at the board in the classes, but my mind was going Soham. I didn't talk to boys. I was completely I said, I want to do it like a tapas. And then when I go on Thursday, I want Swami to show me some sign, some really out of the world sign saying that yes, this is your path. Because I was desperately looking for some kind of, how we sometimes look for signals. At that point, I needed it. And so I practiced as much as I could. And then Thursday came and we were all getting ready to go. I was right in front of the line, so I knew I would go and sit right next to the birthday boy. Swami opens the door, I'm going to be right there. So I go and sit there, all well planned, and I'm thinking, see, look at my audacity, right? I'm thinking, you come and stand simply in front of me, I'm not going to touch your feet and think it's a sign. Look at that. I mean, people crave for that, right? And I don't want all that. I don't want you to simply even look at me like that. Give me some, I want some out of the world sign. I don't know what it is. I didn't even know what to ask for. So, no, you have to show me something, Swami. Just accept the sadhana and tell me this is my path. So I'm praying, quote unquote, show me that sign, Swami. I know you will. I did my best for the sadhana and this and that. I'm constantly praying. Swami comes out for darshan. He comes to this birthday boy in this tray full of sweets. He picks up the sweets and he flings the sweets to everybody. Normally he makes sure that people underneath also gets enough. It's common sense, right? Why would you? But that particular day I didn't get anything. And the sweets went all around, very beautifully done. I didn't get anything, and I was like, cool, it's okay. You know what? I don't want all this. I want that sign. Then he looked like this around me, and he turned and started walking away to the ladies' side. Then only it struck me, wait a minute, he didn't even look at me. I didn't think of a possibility that a whole darshan can pass by, and he won't even look at me. I didn't think of that. I just assumed, oh, sab to hota hai. All that will happen. He is looking, coming, and all that will happen. We have that tendency to take certain things for granted, and we as boys did many times. I speak for myself at least. So Swami went off for darshan, and as he's passing the ladies' side and all, he's speaking of a big group of interview, and I'm like, oh God, this is a big group for interview. If this goes in, he's not going to come out before bhajan. Then I have to go inside for bhajan. Then there's no chance of this direct sign. So then my heart started beating hard. I was like, Swami, give me some sign. Don't ditch me like this. 3 days of sadhana, you can't. You have to show me something. But you know what? I'll compromise, do everything. Just don't ignore me like this. Because suddenly then I realized he can simply ignore me. Right? He comes, finishes the darshan and comes and stands right in front of me. But he's not looked at me yet. He's just doing his darshan, like, okay? I'm looking at Swami, and he's looking at a boy 2 rows behind. Hey, kidhar se aaya? Oh, Assam. Okay, call your parents. And that boy is getting up. Swami is telling Assam boy and all. Something he's talking like this. I remember the word Assam in some way. But my mind was, Swami. So he's standing right up here. I can literally see into his nostrils. And I'm saying, Swami, please. Swami, please, in my mind, okay? I'm sitting like this. And I'm screaming what you and I would think is prayer. Swami, please, at least look down upon me. Please don't ignore me. Please look down. Please. All I wanted is a sign. Swami, please, I'm sorry. All that, drama was going on. And Swami it was as if I didn't exist. Now, it doesn't need a God to know somebody is staring at him, right? We know if we're walking down, somebody is looking, you'll know, wow, I don't know what's going on. It's somebody, right? You feel that. You don't need a divine person. So I could just not understand, how come he's standing right here and he can't even look down like this and go? He ignored me completely. And for me, it was a very poignant moment because 3 days I was thinking, Swami is going to bless me in some unique way. And this is suddenly seems to be gone now. Right? And to my horror, he turned and he goes inside. Then he comes out and he calls all these interview people inside. He's like this, looking at devotees. I'm like, Swami, please, Swami, please. There's no sign of any reception of anything like this. There were times when even before I thought something and Swami would respond. To give me that kind of faith at that point. Now I'm saying, please, I'm like, what has gone wrong? What did I do wrong? Swami goes, and even before he shuts the door, sometimes he will look out and he'll make a face at the boys like this, or he'll do something. Only the boys will know, right? The veranda when you sit. He'll make some face. But I thought maybe he'll at least look before he shuts the door. But no, I said, Swami. And the door got shut. When the door shuts, darshan is over. Now, when Swami will come out, nobody knows. So the door shut. This birthday boy got up and he walked out, and I slowly slid to the corner of the pillar because I was feeling shy to cry, but my eyes were welling with tears and anger and disappointment, and I'm shocked Like, my God, I never imagined this could happen. So at that moment, I just closed my eyes and I was completely drained of what you call energy, like physical, emotional energy. So I did 3 days of sadhana and no thoughts, but at that point it was completely, I just kept my eyes closed. Just wanted to compose myself. About 3 or 4 minutes might have passed. Suddenly a click sound came, the door opened. And everybody looked up. Of course, I also looked up to Swami. This time, my mind is completely blank. I'm not talking, I'm not looking at it. I'm just looking at Swami because it's happening too fast now. I'm just relating it in slow motion. Swami comes out. Apparently, one lady in the group had not come for the interview. So he came out, looked at that lady. Hey, lazy, come, something he's telling. And that lady, poor thing, came. God knows what prayer she was having, right? It's all orchestration at multi-levels. So I saw that lady coming and Swami was telling that lady, hey, lazy, go inside. And that lady goes in. Swami is standing here in front of me but looking that side. And I'm looking up at Swami. I had no idea or no energy to revamp that whole drama in my head. So I was just looking at Swami. And Swami is about to go inside, but in a flash of a second he turned around and his palms came towards me. He had materialized vibhuti inside, so his fingers were full of vibhuti. He turned around and he put vibhuti between my eyebrows. No smile, nothing, huh? Just, and walked off and shut the door. I got my sign, right? That was the most exhilarating moment. And so that experience taught me a very valuable lesson. And that lesson was that when I think I was praying, he was not responding at all. It was like he was not able to listen to what I wanted. When I thought I stopped praying, the door opened and my innermost desire manifested even beyond my wildest expectations. I would never thought Swami would put vibhuti between my eyebrows and all of that. I mean, that's like, I would have never dare even ask something like that, correct? So how did that manifestation happen? The desire was there. Give me some sign, some real sign, which is not like an everyday sign. But how did that manifest itself? When I was not praying, and why didn't that even come close to manifestation when I think I was praying? That experience has taught me the difference between asking and praying. We combine the two. When we ask, we don't pray. When we ask, we are focusing on the lack of it. Why you're not looking at me, Swami? Please look. It's about me and I and me. I'm so full of I and me that there is no place for God to even respond. I've created that static of I, poor me, I've done this, please look at me, We demand attention to this little self. But here, when you let go of that self, when you let go, we think we're letting go of that desire, but it becomes an offering. Let go, take that and offer it and say, you know what, you make it happen if you want to. It's your will. I trust your will, let it happen. Now I've learned to do that. But that day I didn't know, but I learned that lesson that when you are thinking you're not praying, you're actually surrendered that moment. That moment was surrendered. I can't handle this anymore. I'm given up. What we think of given up is when God steps in and says, okay, now I got it. What do you want? And immediately it manifested. That silence. So I had a chance to share this very experience, not in such a dramatic manner like I did with y'all, but in a more contained manner because Swami was sitting next to me. In Kodaikanal, I shared this with Swami, with Swami next to me. There's a very, very beautiful epilogue to the story. So I shared this experience and Swami was just simply listening, with his hands on his chair like this, in the arms, and he's just simply listening. Because he made me talk every day for over 1.5 months. And so I spoke this experience. I bent down, I kissed his feet. And then Swami said, good, Bhaga Matlad now. Then Swami beautifully said, I ended my talk saying, it is only in the depths of silence that the voice of God can be heard. Because I said in silence only Swami heard, right? So it is only in the depths of silence can the voice of God be heard. But that was a quote of Swami, I just quoted it. I bent down, touched his feet, he patted me on my back, then he said, repeated it. Yes, only in the depths of silence can the voice of God be heard. Then he said, in the same depths of silence, God, pointing to them, God can also hear your voice. So you can hear God's voice and God can also hear your voice. So there is communication, but that communication is not vocal, it's in silence. You see the beauty of that, the irony, it's like a beautiful riddle. How can you hear voices in silence? And yet you hear God's voice and God hears your voice in the depths of silence. Isn't that a very profound lesson? I mean, how does Swami teach this so beautiful lessons? So I learned the magic of prayer with that episode, which kind of till Swami said this, it kind of sealed the whole thing. So it took about 3, 4, 5 years to learn that. But after that, it's really imprinted on my mind that however tempting it is to ask and demand, like, because we know what is good for us, no? We seem to be the experts, right? We want the cure right away, or we want this job right away, or we want something to happen and solve right away. But if only at that point we enter in that, yeah, you take it. I trust you more than I trust my own mind. It's very difficult for me to give up this, but I will give it to you. You do it. I'm ready to accept the outcome. And you truly enter that zone of silence, offering it to Him. Because you trust in His orchestration. Then I feel the divine blesses with much, much more than what we could ever expected. Much more than what we could have expected. But we fear, when I spoke this to a person, he said, no, I don't trust all that. I won't ask what I want. I said, then you will keep asking. You are the one who told me, like 5 years you've been asking for things happening. Stop asking. No, but what if God decides to test me? I said, that's your lack of faith in Him, right? How can you say, no, if I leave it to Him, He will mess it. Let me put my demand. But then you're never going to, because it's about me and my demand and what I want. If you truly, that's where faith is concerned. That's why Mirabai said, it's poison? No, it can't be. It's the Lord, and it became nectar.
That's total surrender.
Complete surrender. So if we take a situation in our lives and say, you handle it. I don't know how to handle this. You take over. Let it happen. And sit back. And you continue your work, not expecting anything, because you let the divine orchestrate it. Then divine orchestrates it. That's why I'm saying it's real. God is real. That orchestration is real. And you always look back and say, wow, this is far beyond my expectation. Oh my God, I couldn't have even imagined to ask for this. So thank you. But when we are forced and we get tempted to ask for a cure and ask for this and ask for that, then we are placing demands, and more than placing demands, we are actually indulging in I, me and mine rather than God. And so I wanted to share that through that experience, because that's how I learned most of these very, very valuable means to connect to the divine. So on the one side, we enjoyed Swami's physical presence and all of that. But on the other side, there were these powerful teachings, which, he gave us through little tidbits. And in our lives now, as we sit back and review them, it's magical how powerful these lessons are, and we can actually apply them. It's available for all of us to apply. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
thank you. I mean, I know it's 9:15.
No.
I
I realize that.
Thank you for your patience.
No, we should be thanking you.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It gives me greatest joy. I think these are the things that matters to us in life, right? Otherwise, what is life about? I mean, we can discuss what we saw or read on CNN and what he said and she said, and it's the same old, it's boring. This becomes an adventure of understanding who we are, where we came from. What is this life all about? What is this journey all about? What is the power of faith? How can we tap into that resource within us? We can learn from
Our perspective changes. So it's not only for you, it's benefiting all of us. You're sharing
when
your...
my own perspective changes. It enriches all of us. Absolutely. At that point, it doesn't matter who
Slip पे जाओ ना.
experienced it and whose experience
Slip.
was it.
Slip.
Commonality that we share, it's the same,
Okay.
right? We learn from each other's experience.
I think that was a message Swami gave you, for your life path to change, isn't it? When he said, I can't speak and can't walk,
Yeah.
the dream.
Well, I think
It was a
I
message
think he
for
put
you.
me on that. You see, for the longest time, I was putting things away, right? I said, okay, I have only a job visa. I'll start thinking of teaching yoga here when I get my green card. Then the green card came. Then I said, wait a little bit. I mean, I'm not ready yet. So then the citizenship came. And then I said, wait a minute. And so a couple of years had passed. And I could have gone on like that. Because sometimes we want to do things, but it just doesn't seem to click, right? But that dream was an indication pushing me that I have not figured it out. But when I heard Swami passed away, then in that week I realized that even then after that it still took me 6 months to make that decision. I mean, take it into action. But I knew at that point it's a combination of, if it was just the dream, then it would have been another good dream. And I would have still figuring out what to do. But with the dream and Swami passing away, it became very evident, can you do this for me? Now I'm not pleased, just to be on record, I'm not claiming to be Swami's messenger or channel or there's some weird thing happening today in India and elsewhere. No, I don't claim those kind of things. I mean, in spirit.
We are well aware of that.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have
thank
known
you.
you for so many years.
So I don't
That
want
needless,
to
you don't
be
have to tell us
anywhere
that. At least
in
this
that
was-
sense. But I think it was a personal message for me that, listen, you have to go that path. You have to take that path. So that's what really pushed me over the edge. I needed that. And I don't think I'll ever look back. So.
Thank you, Brother Sunder. Actually, I was with my limited perspectives and thought I requested you to talk on some topic via WhatsApp messages. But now I realized that if you leave it open, as we were thinking, Swami, you give us what message you want to give. I saw the beautiful outcome coming out of it instead of talking on that particular topic. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it's all Swami's. It's still his love. I've really learned that you let him. When people say I enjoyed your talk, I tell them I enjoyed it too, because I have a broad idea of what I want to talk, but then there is an exchange of energy that guides me. I can't explain this, but you all understand, right? How we plan to talk to our children, but when you really start talking, things go in ways, then you realize, wow, I didn't see this coming. So it happens like that. So it's the same thing applied to when we are deeply connecting to each other in spirit. And there is really no other thing on the agenda here at this point. And when that happens, then there is a deep exchange of energy. And see, then we begin to align ourselves with each other's thought. And a guidance happens, which is not conscious. It cannot be done consciously. So it's a very humbling thing for me as well. Truly. And I learn a lot from a retreat as much as anybody else does. The same as almost as anybody else does. And it keeps me on my toes, if you will. Why would Swami make me say that? Oh my God, I have to be careful. Maybe I need to work on that. Why did I say that so much? Like George Bernard Shaw, somebody said, you teach best what you need most to learn. So if I'm really good at something, maybe I need to work on it. So for me, when I go home, I kind of vaguely analyze my talk and I say, why did I focus on that? Maybe there's something Swami is telling me to be careful about. So it's very mutual, totally. And I think he's the one who's orchestrating it.
It can be something that Swami wants the rest of us. It's not for you to be careful, but
Yeah,
the rest of us to learn.
We all continue learning, right? I mean, the learning never ends. From my understanding at this point is self-enlightenment is a process. It's not a static goal. You can't say, aha, I'm done that, now I'm enlightened. How, if the self is infinite, how can you say, I have now contained it, I've understood the self? Then it defeats the purpose of being in. So If it's infinite, then my discovery will be infinite, my learning will be infinite. So the journey is the destination of being in that infinite expansion and learning and unconditional learning. You are being in an enlightened lifestyle. That is the destination of being in the journey, correct? So sadhana becomes a destination. You don't do sadhana to get somewhere. So you don't say, I've done meditation for 6 months, I'm not getting any experience. No, then you're using meditation as a means to get somewhere and you'll never get anywhere. But if you say every session is my communion with God, every session becomes complete in itself, then every session becomes an experience. Then you look forward for the next session because in the first session you had something. The next session becomes even better. So meditation is not a means to get anywhere. Sadhana is not a means to get anywhere. Sadhana is just where you are actually experiencing. At that moment you are. To whatever extent you can, you are. Then that extent of experience becomes more and more and more. And then you realize, oh my God, there's so much more in this creation. So many more dimensions, so many more levels of reality. And then it becomes fascinating.
I request you to end the session with the bhajan.
Okay. I think it's simple bhajan. We'll do just one more. So Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. 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 Om Namah Shivaya 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Hara Hara Haraya Shivaya Namo. Hara Hara Haraya Shivaya Namo. Hara Hara Haraya Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Hara 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 Haraya Namo. Hara 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 Haraya Namo. Om Namah Shivaya Shivaya 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 Namo. Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka